I guess we are live. All
Yeah,
right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. Super duper excited to be back again. Today, we are joined by Jorge from the Stargaze team, where we are going to talk about Stargaze infrastructure and the upcoming launch details. I am super duper excited. Well, Jorge, would you like to introduce yourself?
yeah. Hey, I'm Jorge. I'm the Stargaze co-founder. Yeah, probably you will know me if you hang around in our Validator chat. So yeah, happy to be here.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit more about you. What introduced you to the Web3 and especially the Cosmos ecosystem?
I think like I mostly was around like in the Go community, and in early 2019, I met Shane through the Go community. And that's how I joined True Story, which was a startup like we were using the Cosmos K even before like the Cosmos Cup launch. And I think that that was my first time like working on Web3. Yeah.
That's cool. And also, how did you get started with Stargaze? What was the idea behind that?
Um, well, again, like we started a True Story, and then um, in after in 2020, I think we started to build like this stake beer project, which was like focused around like social and incentivize social. Um, but then like we were using like on top of like of Twitter, like if you like some content, it will be like um, go to the blockchain and incentivize with quadratic voting. But then like heavily relying on Twitter content wasn't like too much sense, and then we started to see like we need like the native content, and for that like it's like the native content for Web3 NFTs, and then that's when we start to pivot to the NFT space.
Okay, so and now going to a little bit of the technical side of things, we all remember that the Stargaze Genesis Mint was such a smooth and quick
Mm-hmm.
process. So, what all infrastructure related implementations did you have to take to ensure like the quick response times and things like that back then?
Yeah, I think like the first test was the airdrop, which was released like a month before, and we had some issues for the airdrop. The main reason was like underprovising some hardware, because it's hard to scale fast with Cosmos. Like you cannot just spin like 5 new machines and they will be ready to take load. So we had underprovised machines, and they start to lose peers and disconnect from the network, and then you start to have like uh, nodes not being synced, and having like weird states. So I think like we took that experience from the airdrop, and and for the mint, we wanted to make it as smooth as possible. So we kind of like over provision it that time, in order to make it smooth. And yeah, I think like we really over provisioned the capacity to take the load.
So, how many RPC REST nodes did you have, and what kind of specs did they have?
I think like for mint day we had like 18 nodes probably, and there was like a mix between bare metal and BBS machines. So the lowest were like 64 gigabytes of RAM, and the highest were like 252 gigabytes of RAM. So combined, it was like 2 terabytes of RAM and a mix of CPUs as well. Um, After mint day, we start to shift into more bare metal. Um, so we have lower number of machines, but almost the same in terms of CPUs and RAM.
So what kind of specs about the systems are relevant? Like, is it RAM or is it the cores or?
Yeah, I think like you need RAM, CPU, because it will depend on how many concurrent connections you want. The more concurrent connections, you need more CPUs in order to handle like the I/O operations. RAM, you need a lot of RAM because we tweak our settings to have more cache at the IBL caching layer. Also for WASM, we increase the caching for WASM. And yeah, you need like fast drives to do it.
Okay, and the Stargaze, as it is an NFT platform, so and all the NFT images are, I think, stored on IPFS. So, is there any kind of caching done for the images?
For images, we use like an IPFS gateway. So it's cached like at the CDN level. So we use also like resizing. So when you first request like the image, it goes to like resizing process. Because some of the images were too big or they were like GIFs, that yeah, it doesn't make sense like to load. Like for example, GIFs, like some were like really big and loading everything in a single page. Yeah, it was taking like too much bandwidth. So some of these images are converted, like GIFs are converted to MP4 videos, so to display like the GIF animation. Yeah.
So none of this stuff is done by the creators of the NFT. This is all done from the dev team.
Sorry?
Like the conversion of GIFs into MP4s, like this is not done by the creators of the NFTs, but
No,
by.
yeah, this is done by us. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we do the conversion.
Okay. And what about the metadata of the collections? Like, is there any caching happening regarding that?
Yeah, so since it is using our like the IPFS gateway is cached at that layer, but then we have an API that caches all the traits for each NFT, because you still need like if you want to retrieve them from IPFS, you still need to parse them and process them. So yeah.
And on the front end side, were there any specific things implemented for quicker response times?
Yeah, we use like a mix between server-side rendering, so like it's cache at the server side, but also I think like there is like queries are cached like in the browser as well, in order to not reload every time. Yeah, I can speak too much about the front end, but yeah, I think like that's what is working right now.
Okay. And was it ever considered to have the images also hosted on chain? Because Stargaze is an app-specific chain.
Not at this moment. Yeah, because I think that will be like huge amount of space needed to keep all the content. But yeah, probably in the future we can explore different options to like Python or other types of storage.
That's cool. Also, congratulations on the launch last week. Also, if you can share some of the ideas, like what were the status regarding the transactions and the queries? What were your estimations? Were they over or under the estimation or as expected?
Yeah, I guess like in terms of transactions, like the first day, there were like definitely a lot of listings and buys. So yeah, I guess like the first day were like kind of like 30K transactions between listings and buys and mints happening that day as well. In terms of queries, we are receiving almost like 100 million requests per day. So over the last week, we almost have like 1 billion requests to our RPC endpoints. So I think like it was, we weren't expecting like that kind of load, but yeah, like the nodes are doing fine, and the average response times from the RPC endpoints, I think is under like 5 milliseconds. I don't have like the exact number, but yeah, it's really fast. But we are doing like multiple concurrent queries. Like when you go to your profile, you need to query multiple contracts, and all that is happening in your caching layer, which does all the concurrent querying to the endpoints.
And how did the estimates were arrived?
Yeah, I guess like we really didn't have like any accurate estimates. Like, yeah, for that.
When these all information was collected, what kind of information was actually collected? Any
Uh,
parameters, maybe?
for the load testing,
Yeah.
I guess like mostly the response time, like the WASM response times, because we rely heavily on querying contracts. I think that that was the most critical thing, and we had to tweak our public RPC endpoints because on WASM you have like you can configure the limit of how much gas it can take for querying. So yeah, we had to tweak those parameters before launching.
And when the Genesis Mint was prepared, were there any kind of infrastructure upgrades that were made?
Yeah, between the airdrop and to the mainnet, yeah, we did switch to like a more geo-distributed deployment. So we have like different nodes in different regions, and in order to have like low latency depending on where are you connecting. So as of today, I think like most of the traffic comes from Europe, and that's why we are planning to add more nodes like in Asia region in order to help like the Europe region to take more load.
And have you scaled back after the marketplace launch? How's that looking?
Um, yeah, I think like nodes can take still more load. We are adding like our indexer like in a couple days probably. But you still rely on the RPC endpoints, like don't query nodes, because you cannot cache everything. For example, like if you transfer your NFT, and you will have to deal with if the indexer is too slow, then it will probably be showing like stale data, like, oh, I'm still the owner of the NFT, but I transfer. So yeah, I think like from this point we are just probably just add more and not reducing our capacity. Yeah.
And how's load balancing happening for the production traffic?
So we have two ways of balancing. For the REST and RPC, we are using at the moment Clover, which where you can specify like different regions or origins to your infrastructure. So it serves like when you hit like the domain, you will just hit the closest node to you. And then for the other API, we use a different service. It's kind of like Clover, but they have like this Anycast network, which basically does the same as redirecting you to the closest data center to hit the APIs.
And what kind of load and stress testing was done before the Genesis Mint and before the marketplace?
We did tests for querying and for gas cost. I think like the advantage of having like the governance gate because of WASM is like when you upload a contract through governance is pinned by default, and when you pin a contract, it will stay in memory. Like every time like a node is started, like it will keep the contract in memory. So like it doesn't have to load to memory and do the execution. So that has helped a lot in like making it more faster.
Yeah, so I have next question. Like, were there any performance degradation while using COSM WASM as opposed to the native chain implementation? And how does COSM WASM work to ensure that there are no latency with its WASM VM?
Yeah, I think like there's definitely like a small price you have to pay, mainly around gas costs. It takes more gas to transactions and in custom WASM, but in terms of how fast, it's very minimal. And yeah, like in order to ensure like that this latency reduce, we use the pin feature for custom WASM, which it actually helps to reduce gas cost and the response time.
All right. And also, just yesterday, the search option was implemented in the marketplace UI. Then, how would you index for the COSM WASM data work?
Yeah, we are building it like in a way like allows to add more features, because indexing is basically just taking the blocks and transactions and doing the parsing and then putting it into a DB. So we are like using like ingesting all the block and transactions and putting into a different storage. So if we need to like to replay transactions, we don't have to query again the nodes and just do it once, and then we can replay. We are using like the NATS IO, which is kind of like Kafka, in order to put the streams on transactions. We have different ideas to different products. We want to support developers to being able to subscribe to these streams. But yeah, for example, if you use the web sockets from Tendermint, it has like a cost in terms of scaling, because the performance will be reduced if you have multiple web sockets listening to Tendermint. Yeah.
Also, are there any limits on how many it can be pinned?
For what?
How many contracts that can be pinned?
I think like it depends. We haven't really tested how many. You can configure like how many memory you will give to the caching. So we have like it's on it's only around right now like 50 megabytes of this caching. Is very minimal. But yeah, I guess like it will depend on how much memory you want to put into the pin setting. Um, I think like probably will uncache the less used contracts and keep just the most used. I think that who I will expect to work, but yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, and currently, I think Stargaze, when it originally launched, had 100 validators on the mainnet. So how was this number arrived at?
I think like the 100 was like the default on recent chains. We did consider to make it smaller, especially because we wanted to bottle test custom was on production, but then we decided to start with just with 100 validators. And now that we passed like the minting and the marketplace, it was increased by 10. Probably we are looking to or the community to increase it later. The goal is to have like a good performance, and I guess like as you add more validators, like the block time will increase a little bit, but also depends on like on voting power. Like if the top 67% like is less validators, then it will require less time to produce blocks. But yeah. I think you're on mute.
Spurti, you're on mute.
Okay.
Mm,
I think in the Cosmos white paper, they had mentioned that they are planning on up to around 300 validators for Cosmos to slowly increase over time. So is there a schedule like that for Stargaze?
we are not sure. We try to make it more like conservative in terms of performance. I think like the best approach is to do like a slow increments. Like for example, there was a proposal to move from 100 validators to 125, and yeah, and didn't pass. But I guess like it's better to start with lower increments and see the performance over time, and then keep increasing it. Because yeah, you want to keep it as smooth as possible, but also like encourage more decentralization and have eventually more validators.
And what are the pros and cons of having a validator set of say 300 validators?
Yeah, I guess like the network overhead, like it will require probably more rounds to make blocks and increase block time. And probably like all the public nodes, it will start like taking more bandwidth consumed, because it had to keep more peers. I guess like also like the peering issue, as there is more validators, you will have more peering issues. And some do not tweak to have like a high number of peers, of incoming peers. And what I've experienced is like sometimes it's hard to find peers or that are not fully like connected to other peers. So I think that will be the cons of that. As for the cons, probably just more decentralized network over time. But even with that, like the answer probably is not more validated, but just to split the bottom power into validators that are at the bottom. So that's why in your site, when you go to the staking side, we don't like sort by voting power, but it's like random. Every time you go to the staking part, it will just roll different order, because we really don't want to imply to delay to the top ones, because it's what some users probably may do, like see the top 5 and delegate to them.
And all the limitations regarding peering and things you mentioned, are these limitations which can be overcome through like better configuration, or is this like inherently like the consensus engine has like an upper limit?
I think like it's probably configuration. I haven't really tested like through high number of inbound peers. I guess like it would just keep taking more time to do that, but yeah.
Okay, and yeah, currently Stargaze has 110 validators, and any idea how many run bare metal, how many run on the cloud, and does the core team encourage one over the other?
No, we don't encourage like one over the other, but I think like there's like a mix between bare metal and BPS. It's hard to say like the state of the network, because some like place sentries and like in BPS and use bare meta for the validators or have different setups. But yeah, I think like there's like a mix between bare meta and BPS.
And what hardware spec do you think is the most relevant for running a Stargaze validator?
As it is right now, I think like currently like probably like 16 GB of RAM or 32, maybe the optimal to run. Some of we have some settings recommendations around like the IVL caching, which does help with the reducing like the load to the disks. Before that feature was in the SDK, I think like there was issues with disk having like high IO operations. But after that, it has been reduced. I think like it's overall like a good performance.
Can you elaborate a bit more on IVL caching and what it is and how is that relevant?
So the IVL caching is like in order to get data from the key values stores on the as the SDK, the application level. It was really small. Like before that feature was introduced, like I think it was like megabytes per store, like 1 megabyte per store or something. I don't recall. So every time you need to do reading or writing operations, it had to evict data from the caching and loading again to the caching layer. And so by increasing, you reduce like this eviction process, which helps with the overhead on the IO side. We have tested for different types of nodes. For example, for full nodes, I was having issues with one of my full nodes because I increased this value too much, and then it was getting like killed by the operating system because it was just taking too much memory. So, but I guess like validators are using like, or at least some want to run like different run settings, like just keep the latest states possible to not take too much space, which is like, I think like overall on all chains, this is like the main issue, like the space it takes over time you have to continually either like staging nodes or use like prune command to reduce the amount of storage it's taking.
And now coming to the DevOps side of things, like what kind of CI/CD setup is used for the deployment, and what all services rely on CI/CD?
We are using Drone IO mainly because I've been using it like for the past 5 or 6 years, and it was before even like GitLab CI was around or GitHub Actions. It was like one of the first I saw like support like plugin, like Docker plugin style system where every step is just a Docker container. So we build each pipeline step as a Docker image. So we have different setups. Like we test like every time a PR, like you don't break IBC, for example, because in one of before mainnet we had an issue in one of our test nets that we broke like IBC like in 2 consecutive upgrades because of the app.gov wiring and Cosmos applications. So yeah, we decided to just keep testing that we don't ever break IBC, which is like a critical part on a Cosmos chain. We also do upgrade testing, like for example, when we are going to release a new version, the CI takes care of first, like the previous version can connect to IBC, to both. We test against like osmosis and to the Gaia repo. So it does like the IBC connection to those chains in CI. Then it submits like a governance proposal to simulate the newer version. And then it does the switching of the binary. And then it also tests that it keeps like all the IBC connections. Like you are still able to transfer after the upgrade. So I think like that's mainly our release process right now. We kind of like try to test all those steps, so like you don't have like issues when you switch the binaries. I think like we are going to have like a new upgrade probably next week, and the thing that I happy now is like before there was an issue at least with custom wasm, because you have to build like the dynamic library, so some may have different versions, but now we are starting to enforce like you stick to a specific version of custom wasm, which was recently added to the custom wasm API upon our request.
Okay. And which version of Cosm WASM is being run on Stargaze?
It's the latest one. Currently, we haven't updated to the WASM-D, but that's in our next upgrade, which has some new change to the way like the governance gate process workflow works. Because I know you have noticed, but every time we submit like a upload code proposal, it just takes too much gas to vote in the proposal. So we did some work around like how do you manage this process and take like less gas to vote on proposals.
And currently, the Stargaze network, like what all infrastructure components does it have? Like validators or relayers and endpoint nodes. Like what all are there?
Yeah, there is mainly relayers, and some run like snapshots, and we have a couple of variables that run archival nodes, which are really important as well to the network. These days, probably most just run like a brown version of the chain. But yeah, we don't want to. We want to encourage like also having archive nodes available in the network. So for new chains like starting from Genesis are able to sync. There's like we want to have also more community involved, like the validator community involved in the public infrastructure. But we are working on the main issue is like we cannot just add nodes to our main balancer. We have to have like an application balancer in front to be able to know when a node is not synced or is not responding too fast, so to either send less traffic or to remove them from the balancer set. But yeah, I think like it would be really nice to have like all the validator community contribute to the public infrastructure, which is the most important thing.
So these components like relayers, archival nodes, are they largely run by the core dev team, or is it run by the community or the validators?
It's run by the community. As of right now, we only run like the public RPC endpoints, but everything else is run by the validators, like all the relaying thing and archival nodes.
Okay, and I think relayers, there's no incentivization mechanism built into the protocol. So how are the communities members who provide relay service incentivized to do these?
Yeah, we have like the delegations program. We are working on finalizing like a full delegation program to take this into consideration. It's mostly done. I think we are just waiting for feedback from validators to put it like in place and start doing it. But yeah, there will be like different types of incentives to get delegations, which is like relayers providing RPC endpoints, archival nodes, snapshots, but also different things like building tooling around Stargaze, like bots or like toolings for NFTs. Yeah, we have like different ideas for that as well.
That's cool. I guess that was all the technical questions that we were having. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your upcoming plans with Stargaze?
Yeah, I think like in terms of futures, most of the futures are already on the contract level. We are just waiting for the audit to end and start releasing more futures. Yeah, also like lending and borrowing. Some other chains to the chain as well. Like we want to add like the ability to use end blockers in contracts or have like a more governance param store to contracts, like can be easily changed through governance proposals. For example, our marketplace is fully governance owned, so you can submit a proposal to change like the fee it takes or different settings. So we want like this kind of like a structure into the chain as well to be able to do more custom stuff with contracts. I think like the other thing will be like adding like the random beacon into the SDK. There is like a random beacon for custom WASM, but we probably will be adding at the SDK level, mainly because of the gas cost and other things we want to do with random beacon.
That's great. And what we can expect for the next week's upgrade?
I think it will be very minimal. The most exciting thing about it will be probably we are going to introduce like the fees for we have fair bond, which is like 1% bond, and the other half is going right now to the community pool. But with the next upgrade, it should be have like the ability to send to all the stakers. Of course, this will be only on chain, and contracts will have to be like upgraded to new contracts to use it. But yeah, I think like rewarding all the stakers from the fees that the protocol is taking. I think that will be like the most interesting one.
Also, who all contributes to the code base? Is it the only public awesome team, or do you have any external contributors as well?
Yeah, currently it's mainly Polycosm team, but yeah, we have external contributors. There is like a Commonwealth proposal to add new contracts from. I know you have seen the Hyperion NFT project. So the Aurora is creating like this generative art platform, and he already submit like contracts to be reviewed and to go through the governance approval, which is kind of cool. I expect, I hope like to see it soon working.
That's
And
cool.
because also mainly because there is like developer incentives. So you can, if you build your own contracts, you can also have incentives from the fair bond mechanism. So you are encouraged to contribute to the platform and have like these incentives, dev incentives from all the fees that is taking the platform as well.
All right. And also, for a person who is new to Web3, what advice would you give them to become a developer in this field?
I guess like to have patience maybe. For example, I struggle a little with Rust. I'm mainly like a Go person, and I still struggle a little bit with like with the raw side. But yeah, I guess like just learning all the like the fundamentals, because you will be able to switch the, to languages if you have all the base. Um, yeah, probably.
That's cool. And I guess that was all the technical questions that we had. If you want to share anything, please feel free to.
No, I think that's for me.
That's cool. So I guess that was all we had. And after that, we will be sharing the live stream and everything on the YouTube and on the Twitter and all the related links. So everyone, please do check this out. And thank you so much once again, Jorge, for joining this call and giving us the great insights for the Stargaze infrastructure.
No, yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.